I went to the plateau during the National Day holiday. My boyfriend kept courting death by drinking raw water, eating raw meat, feeding marmots, and touching stray dogs. He even insisted on peeking at a sky burial. I tried to persuade him not to go. But they not only secretly climbed the sky burial platform, but also drew a bow and shot arrows. And took photos of Jocelyn posing as an exotic princess. As a result, one arrow went astray and injured a villager, causing the blood to flow continuously. The villagers were extremely angry. They fled in a hurry and fell off the cliff. Only my boyfriend and I survived. 5 years later, we got married smoothly. On the wedding night, he blindfolded me and locked me in a room full of insects. When I opened my mouth to call for help, countless cockroaches crawled into my throat. If it weren't for you stopping me, my Jocelyn wouldn't have died. It turned out that my boyfriend actually blamed me for the death of his first love. When I opened my eyes again, I was back on the first day of our trip to Tibet. I watched my boyfriend excitedly gulp down a bowl of raw water from Tibet and smiled. This time, you can court death all you want. And I will never stop you again. Wow. This is indeed the holy water from the ice spring. It's really sweet. I feel like my soul has become cleaner. Ryan, come and have a sip too? My boyfriend Ryan captured the light and took 2 more photos of Jocelyn. He casually stuffed a camera into my arms and quickly walked over to Jocelyn's side. I flipped through the photos in the camera, and my heart couldn't help but feel sour. I was the one who bought this camera for Ryan. But in the camera, more than half of the photos were of Jocelyn, and the rest were of landscapes. There wasn't a single photo of me. I watched as Ryan tingly wiped the water droplets from the corner of Jocelyn's mouth. Then, right on a low sigh, taking a sip from her hand, he gulped down a whole bowl of raw water that might contain Echinus and Cocycus eggs. In my previous life, although I couldn't stand the way these two crossed the line, I still pulled Ryan away and tried my best to dissuade them. You can't drink raw water. There are Echinus and Cocycus eggs in it. If you drink it, you'll get hydatid disease cancer. Don't you know that? What's more, although the stream water here looks clean, it's actually really dirty. Upstream, cows and sheep are defecating and urinating in the water. There are also dirty stray dogs rolling around, having fun, and taking a bath in the stream. However, Ryan and Jocelyn simply turned a blind eye to all this. This is the equality of all living beings in Tibet, which is natural and holy. You don't understand a thing. So many people drink raw water. How many of them actually get sick? It's a rare opportunity to come to the plateau. Can you not be a spoil sport? You're really annoying. My boyfriend glared at me, looking very annoyed. Jocelyn was so scared that she hid in my boyfriend's arms, and then timidly poked her head out. Sister, why are you so fierce? My family taught me that a girl should be gentle and dutiful. The most important thing is not to spoil a man's fun. Brother is already so tired from school on weekdays. Why don't you feel sorry for him at all? Leaning against Ryan like a little bird, Jocelyn made Ryan's self-esteem soar. He looked at me with even more dissatisfaction. Ryan's brother Leo and Jocelyn's best friend Sunny also chimed in to support them. Sister, you're meddling too much. What's a woman like you doing butting in? I think you're just jealous that our Jocelyn is good-looking and likable. So you're always making trouble for her. I was so angry at these people that I laughed. But I can ignore others. But Ryan is my boyfriend. And I can't let him court death. So, with a cold face, I dragged Ryan into the SUV and then started the engine. Seeing this, the others could only look at each other helplessly, and then got into the car while cursing. After that, they kept courting death all the way on the plateau. They fed marmots mouth to mouth, but raw yak meat, kissed and cuddled with the little stray dogs by the roadside, waved their brightly colored windbreakers, and deliberately provoked wild yaks. Every time, I tried to persuade them until I was parched and exhausted. Until the last day in Tibet, they proposed to climb the sky burial platform, peek at the sky burial, and take photos of Jocelyn as a Tibetan princess. I couldn't believe it and thought they were simply crazy. The sky burial is sacred and absolutely does not allow outsiders to peek, let alone take photos. Moreover, the sky burial platform is steep, and if they climb it secretly, they can only take the mountain path. If they're not careful, they'll fall off the cliff and be smashed to pieces. In the end, I stayed near the top of the mountain to wait, while they insisted on secretly climbing the sky burial platform. After getting on the sky burial platform, Jocelyn took off her windbreaker, wore a bright suspender dress, and danced in front of the corpses and vultures, posing coquettously. The local villagers glared at them and waved to drive them away. Instead of leaving, they continued taking photos. They put on the prepared robes and took out their bows and arrows. Ryan held his first love in his arms, and, hand in hand, they shot arrows into the sky together. The sense of exoticity and destiny was fully heightened. Unfortunately, hadn't they slipped. One arrow went astray and injured a villager, and the blood flowed continuously on the spot. The locals were extremely angry, and clenched their fists to come and argue. And they could only flee in a hurry. In their haste, they indeed rolled down the mountain. At that time, the situation was critical. I risked my life to save them, but I only had time to grab my boyfriend. When Jocelyn rolled to my side, I didn't have the strength left. Ryan tried his best to reach out his hand, but it was in vain. Ryan shouted this with great sorrow and a heart-aching voice. In the end, we called the police. The 3 people who fell off the cliff, Ryan's brother Leo and Jocelyn's best friend Sunny, were all rescued. Jocelyn, however, lost too much blood and died on the spot. 5 years later, we graduated smoothly and then successfully entered the marriage hall. Originally, having fulfilled YNSI, my parents didn't agree with me being with Ryan. Because my family is a native of a first-tier city, and we have to dozen property deeds. And Ryan is a poor boy who came from the countryside through the college entrance examination. But I changed the story of our trip to Tibet. I said that he saved me instead of me saving him. I also wholeheartedly supported his career, used my connections to get him into a big company, and secretly gave him projects. Finally, I made him gain the recognition of my parents. When we got married, I was even pregnant with his child. I thought that Ryan should love me deeply. In these 5 years, he did indeed shed his hostility. And he was extremely gentle and patient with me, becoming the best boyfriend that everyone envied. But on the wedding night, he got me slightly drunk, saying that he had a surprise for me. Then he blindfolded me and locked me in a room full of insects. The room was full of poisonous creatures like snakes, scorpions, cockroaches, and mice. The touch on my body was slippery, damp, and disgusting. In my ears, there were also countless rustling sounds. I didn't know what was biting me, and I kept feeling stinging pain on my body. When I tried to open my mouth to call for help, countless cockroaches crawled into my throat. When I died, only my skeleton was left. A week later, Ryan dressed in full protective gear came to collect my body. He looked at my skeleton and laughed heartily and cruelly. If it weren't for you grabbing me back then, Jocelyn wouldn't have died at all. When Jocelyn fell off the cliff, I don't know how desperate and helpless she was. I wish I could have gone down the cliff to accompany her. You died too easily. You really got off lightly. It turned out that he had always blamed me for the death of his first love. So he endured his hatred and lurked by my side for 5 years. Just to completely destroy me on the day when I was the happiest. But if I hadn't grabbed him back then, he would have died too. Not to mention saving others. Violet? My boyfriend's call pulled me back to reality. I really was reborn. This is the first day of our National Day holiday trip along the Sichuan Tibet line. This holy water from the snowy mountains can cleanse the soul and bring good luck. Stop persuading me. I must drink it. Seeing that I didn't respond for a long time, my boyfriend angrily reprimanded me in my ear. And then quickly walked over to Jocelyn's side and dotingly touched her head. He gulped down a bowl of raw water and even filled several mineral water bottles with it to take away. I lowered my head and didn't say a word. I won't persuade anymore. I won't persuade them not only about drinking raw water, but also about eating raw meat, feeding marmots, touching stray dogs, provoking wild yaks, secretly climbing the sky burial platform. I won't persuade them about any of these things. In this life, You can court death to your heart's content. I will never stop you again. 3. I stood aside and watched with a smile as the 4 of them each drank a whole bowl of raw water, before asking everyone to get in the car. Unexpectedly, when it was time to get in the car, my boyfriend's first love caused trouble again. She took a step and got into the passenger seat, locked the car door, and smiled at me innocently. Can I sit in the passenger seat? I get carsick. And it's so uncomfortable to be jolted in the back. Sister, since you're strong and healthy, it doesn't matter if we switch seats. Right? Sister, you're not going to be so stingy, are you? I lent this SUV to Ryan to drive. Before the trip, I even pasted a sticker that said exclusive for girlfriend on the passenger seat. I don't believe that Jocelyn is so faultless. However, before I could answer, my boyfriend Ryan agreed on my behalf without thinking. Jocelyn is in poor health and should sit in the passenger seat. Violet, give up the passenger seat. Don't be so domineering. Fine. Not sitting in the passenger seat and not having to look at Ryan's terrifying and disgusting face is also a good thing. I turned around and sat in the back seat. Jocelyn twisted left and right to adjust the seat. Oops. The seat back is adjusted to far back. I'm more petite. I'm not as strong as sister. Her admirer Leo laughed loudly. Jocelyn. You mean fat? Right. You're so kind. Can some fat women have some self-awareness and lose some weight? So ugly. I'm 1.7 meters tall and weigh 102 pounds. I'm not fat. But in the eyes of some stupid and skinny men, if a girl's weight exceeds 100 pounds, she's a fat woman. I couldn't be bothered to pay attention. After Jocelyn adjusted the seat, Ryan naturally leaned over and helped her fasten the seat belt. Sitting in the back seat, I clearly saw that Jocelyn deliberately straightened up and pushed her round and beautiful figure forward. Ryan's ears turned red. He was clearly aroused of enjoying it. After taking a few deep breaths, he started the car. Halfway through the drive, everyone was drowsy. I leaned against the seat back and feigned sleep with my eyes closed. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Jocelyn feeding my boyfriend some first love fruits with her hand. I saw my boyfriend's tongue gently licking her fingers. Jocelyn giggled and asked in a coquettish voice, "Brother, is this first love fruit sweet? I've also eaten this brand of first love fruits, and they're so sour that they make your teeth ache." But my boyfriend's eyes were filled with affection, and he had a smile on his face, as if savoring the touch of her fingers. It's sweet. Especially sweet. I saw that the 2 of them secretly held hands behind the cover of the seats. Their fingers were even intertwined. It was so ambiguous and tender. I felt like vomiting. Jocelyn was my college roommate. In my previous life, it was clearly her who said that Ryan had feelings for me and often helped to set us up. So I got together with Ryan. But who would have thought that the 2 of them actually had an affair? Now that I have a chance to do it all over again, I can see clearly. Ryan doesn't love me at all. He's with me just to get money from me. That's fine. I won't show any mercy when I take my revenge. For the next day, cutting till Falwine session. When we entered to bed as planned, we passed by a grassland. On the grassland, besides groups of cows and sheep, there was actually a young puppy. The little puppy, with its wet eyes, was crouching by the side of the road. God. It's so cute. Jocelyn, sitting in the passenger seat, let out a scream and asked my boyfriend to park the car on the side of the road urgently. After getting out of the car, she held the puppy in her arms, kissing and hugging it, and refused to let go. She didn't even care when the puppy bit her, leaving traces of blood on her body. Leanne, let's adopt this puppy. Okay? It's so pitiful. Jocelyn batted her eyes and looked at Ryan with full expectation. In my previous life, I refused immediately. This was a stray dog. And who knew how many germs it carried? If someone got rabies, who would be responsible? Upon hearing my words, Jocelyn soon had tears in her eyes. Her admirer Leo couldn't stand it. Violet, can't you even tolerate a dog? What a narrow-minded woman. I held back my anger and explained calmly. But they didn't listen at all. Later, I couldn't bear it anymore either. I looked at Ryan angrily and said a harsh word firmly. Anyway, heading till Feld via session. If I'm in this car, there won't be the dog. And if the dog is in the car, I won't be in it. Jocelyn grabbed Ryan's sleeve and sobbed. Brother. The car is yours. And you paid for it too. Why is this woman being so fierce? I'm so scared. Jocelyn's best friend Sunny hugged her to comfort her and gave me an angry glare. I've never seen such a nitpicking woman like you. I also crossed my arms and looked at Ryan, waiting for him to make a decision. At that time, I firmly believed in Ryan's feelings for me. Between the dog and me, he couldn't possibly choose the dog, but unexpectedly, he gave me a cold look, got back in the car impatiently, and threw my bag to me. Since you have to be so difficult, get out of the car and walk back to the homestay by yourself. I looked at him in disbelief. This car was mine. This trip to Tibet was originally supposed to be a self-driving trip for just the two of us as a couple. And I was supposed to cover the expenses. After Jocelyn found out, she said she was the matchmaker and clamored to join. And she also brought her best friend Sunny with her. And Leo, after learning that Jocelyn was coming, also had the nerve to sign up with Ryan. Jocelyn batted her eyes and acted coca-fly. And Ryan agreed to it all despite my objections. The so-called couple's trip for Tibet turned into a trip for 5 people. For Ryan's sake, I transferred money to him every time and let him pay. I gave him enough face in public. Sunny and Leo even still thought that he was a rich second generation. Yet he kicked me out of the car. I still wanted to argue. But they had already gotten in the car with the dog, locked the door, and drove away. Before leaving, Jocelyn smiled provocatively at me. That smile was triumphant and full of malice. They drove away in a flash. And I could only carry my bag and walk 7 or 8 kilometers on the plateau. I was panting so hard that my lungs were wheezing and almost about to explode. I didn't get back to the homestay until late at night. The others, including my boyfriend, had already fallen sound asleep. Not a single person was worried about my safety. This time, I won't be stupid again. This time, I shouted out louder than Jocelyn. Wow! What a cute puppy. Come and touch it. Everyone. After confirming that the puppy had bitten everyone and left bloodstains, I quietly took out the alcohol and disinfected my whole body. My boyfriend's first love still held the puppy in her arms, kissing and cuddling it, and looking at my boyfriend with full expectation in her eyes. Ryan, when can I adopt this puppy? I answered one step ahead. Of course you can. But you must take good care of it. But you once raised 3 kittens and 2 puppies to death in the dormitory. Every time the cats and dogs grew up, you didn't like them anymore. Either you didn't feed them or you just abandoned them directly. This time, you can't do that again. Jocelyn's face turned pale, then red, and then green. She originally wanted to take this opportunity to show her kind and gentle side as a little angel. But who knew that I exposed her dark history right in front of everyone? Even Ryan frowned in surprise and glanced at her. She stamped her foot, wanting to explain, but was too anxious to say anything. Because I exposed her dark history in advance. Jocelyn could only hold the puppy tightly in her arms all the way. She had to take care of its eating, drinking, having fulfilled and excreting all by herself. I didn't feel completely at ease until I was sure that not a single drop of saliva from the dog could splash on me. 5 on the 3rd day of our trip to Tibet, we went sightseeing in the pastoral area. We chose a local restaurant run by herdsmen for lunch. We ordered a yak hot pot. They laughed and asked the herdsman if the beef could be eaten raw. The herdsman hesitated and said no. But they just didn't listen. We've already seen online that top-quality yak beef is all eaten raw. Eating it raw and preserve all the nutrients of the beef. Let's try the beef sashimi today too. In my previous life, I let out a long sigh and stopped them again. Beef wasn't completely impossible to eat raw, but the breeding environment of the cows had to meet the standards. The yaks on the plateau were all free-range. If eaten raw, there would definitely be parasites in it. After hearing my words, they didn't eat the beef raw, but they all pursed their lips, thinking I was meddling too much, and always spoke to me in an especially cold tone. It was Jocelyn's best friend Sunny who suggested eating the beef raw. When I refuted her, She gave me a bad look and made sarcastic remarks about me. Some gold diggers. Spending men's money. Really think of themselves as princesses. Aren't they cheap? In this life. I don't care if they want to court death. Section at article truck. I took the chopsticks actively, and put 4 or 5 slices of raw meat into each person's bowl. The marbling of this meat is so beautiful and high grade. It feels even more delicate than Wagyu beef. Hurry up and eat it. They buried their heads and feasted. It's really delicious. So sweet and fresh. Like ice cream. Yes. It doesn't have any fishy smell at all. It wasn't until they finished eating the raw meat that Ryan hypercritically asked me. It was so delicious that I didn't save any for you. Violet. You don't mind. Do you? I almost laughed to death. How could I mind? I'm just afraid you didn't eat enough. I blinked my eyes and forced a virtuous smile. How could I mind? As long as everyone has a good time. I'll go find the herdsman and ask for a big portion of raw meat. After saying that, I left the room to find a herdsman to add more dishes. When I came back, I heard a discussion inside. Ryan. Violet seems quite obedient and virtuous. It feels not as difficult to serve as you usually say. I've changed my opinion of her today. This was Leo, Jocelyn's admirer, speaking. After that, Sunny's shrill and disdainful voice sounded. What? She's just pretending. Didn't you see? She didn't drink the raw water or the rayak beef. She's just trying to act noble. After she said that, the expressions of several people at the dining table changed. What if? What if there really are parasites in this stuff? Then we'll all be in trouble. And what's more, Violet is so lucky that she has managed to avoid it. Maybe we should secretly replace the water in her cup with raw water too. After Leo said that, no one spoke, and there was a moment of silence at the dining table. Jocelyn rolled her eyes and then smiled sweetly at Ryan. Ryan. You won't be reluctant, will you? Without thinking, Ryan sneered. Let her drink it. If something happens, I can just inherit her inheritance. After that, they secretly filled my thermos cup with raw water. I stood quietly at the door. I didn't expect that Ryan could be so vicious. I turned around, didn't enter the room, but ordered a pot of Tibetan-style milk tea and walked towards the nearby stream. I drank half a bottle of milk tea in one go. Then, wet out a low sigh, I filled the pot with the water from the stream. The water in the stream was turbulent, clean, and clear. But, because of the water burial custom, 1 or 2 animal carcasses would float by in the stream from time to time, emitting a foul smell. The smile on my face grew deeper. This water is great. With a rich flavor. Natural and sacred. They will definitely like it. I poured a full cup of corn juice with extras for each of them. And when they weren't paying attention, I poured out all the water in my thermos cup. After Leo finished drinking the milk tea and smacked his lips, he felt something was wrong. Why is this Tibetan-style milk tea so weak this time? I blinked my eyes innocently and started spouting nonsense. Who knows? Maybe this cow is in a bad mood and it affects the milk production. That's also possible. 6 On the 4th day of our trip to Tibet, we came across a marmot on the way. It was a small one with a pair of big front teeth. Looking extremely cute, Jocelyn threw the puppy in her arms to the ground and ran towards the marmot excitedly. She touched the marmot with excitement. Unexpectedly, the marmot here was so friendly to people that it lay down on the ground and exposed its belly. Jocelyn directly picked up the marmot and held it in her arms. And even took out beef jerky to feed it mouth to mouth. After that, she took many photos while holding the marmot. Ryan, Sunny, and Leo also fed the marmot and took photos. In my previous life, of course, I dissuaded them. After all, marmots are the main culprits for spreading the plague, and the plague, also known as the Black Death, has a very high mortality rate. I tried my best to persuade them. And I did manage to stop them. But what I got in return wasn't gratitude but an even more impatient attitude. In this life, I watched them playing with the marmot with a smile. I felt at ease only when I saw that everyone's clothes were wrinkled from being nudged by the marmot. When Ryan told everyone to leave, I was still very regretful. Are we leaving just like this? The marmot is so cute. Don't you want to play with it for a while longer? After that, just like in my previous life, we encountered a solitary wild yak. In my previous life, they deliberately provoked the yak. When the yak got angry and charged towards us, Leo pushed me to the front as a shield. If it weren't for the luck of meeting a passing herdsman who helped, I'm afraid I would have died long ago. In this life, when my boyfriend and Leo saw the yak, their eyes still lit up with excitement. They threw stones at the wild yak with a smile, but the yak just flicked its tail and ignored them. So they got closer and closer. They even shouted and intimidated the yak. They even asked Jocelyn, who was wearing a bright dress, to go over and take photos. They said that this scene was just right for taking a set of photos of a beauty and a beast. Jocelyn, in a bright red dress, swayed in front of the yak. They also took off their brightly colored windbreakers and imitated bullfighters, deliberately provoking the yak. The yak was finally enraged. It started to swing its tail vigorously and impatiently, growled in a low voice, and charged towards them. When it got closer, we found that the wild yak was like a small hill. It was extremely imposing. I instinctively felt scared and hid far away. But they were even more excited. They jumped up, grabbed the horns of the wild yak, and tried to ride on it. The wild yak got angry, pawed the ground with its hooves, and butted them, making them howl in pain. They simply couldn't withstand the enraged yak. Soon, men out a low sigh. They were exhausted, their skin torn open by the yak's butting, and they were even kicked flying by the yak, lying on the ground unable to get up. Suddenly, the wind blew Jocelyn's red dress. The wild yak, with its eyes bloodshot, stared at her dress and charged straight towards her. My boyfriend's first love fled frantically, and cast a pleading look at Ryan. Ryan lay on the ground, not daring to move at all. He motioned with his eyes and pointed in a direction for Jocelyn. There was a stack of hay bales, which was just suitable for hiding from the wild yak. Coincidentally, it was also the direction where I and Sunny were hiding. Jocelyn ran towards us regardless of everything. I hid behind the hay bales, feeling the vibrations from the running wild yak and shivering all over. The wild yak was getting closer and closer. My heart was also pounding to the extreme. At the critical moment, I wanted to throw my windbreaker to attract the wild yak's attention. Before I could take action, I was actually pushed out of the hay bales by Sunny. She avoided my gaze and spoke with a lot of excuses. "You're tall and run fast. What's wrong with helping me distract the yak?" Just like that, I was exposed to the wild yak's sight. I was both shocked and angry, and I took to my heels and ran. Fortunately, the herdsmen grazing in the distance rushed over and drove away the wild yak with their own cattle herd. Only then did we manage to escape the danger. 7 After confirming that the wild yak had left, we all emerged from our hiding places one after another. Thankfully, heading fully. Except for Jocelyn, who had a slightly sprained ankle and a cut on her face from a nail. Nothing serious happened to anyone. Ryan looked at Jocelyn with a loving pity expression. He directly picked up Jocelyn in a princess carry and took her to the car to apply an Edison. Jocelyn had tears in her eyes, hooked her arms around his neck, and only exposed her slender calves, looking extremely pitiful. The more Ryan looked at her, the more loving pity he felt. Before I could say anything, he put all the blame on me. "Violet, I never knew you had such a bad character. You only cared about saving your own life. Didn't you know you should give Jocelyn a hand? You have thick skin and don't feel pain at all. Do you know how much Jocelyn is suffering from her injury?" I was completely stunned. Leo and Sunny also didn't care about anything and started accusing me one after another. "You're really despicable. You only cared about running away by yourself. What if Jocelyn's body was seriously injured by the yak? Could you afford to compensate for that? Anyway, you had already rushed out of the hay bales. Couldn't you just save Jocelyn on the way? You're so cowardly and afraid of death." I didn't blame them for provoking the wild yak and pushing me as a shield, but instead, they blamed me for not being able to save Jocelyn. Before I could refute, Ryan was already staring at me with a look of disgust. He crossed his arms and his tone was extremely cold. "Violet, I didn't expect you to be such a despicable person. I've decided that for the trip to the sky burial platform tomorrow, we won't take you with us. You can only wait at the halfway up the mountain. No matter how much you beg us. It's useless. Leo and Sunny also looked at me arrogantly. As if they were certain that I would lower my pride and beg them. I almost burst out laughing. I never expected that there could be such a good thing in the world. I was originally worried about how to decline tomorrow's trip. And they actually helped me come up with a reason on their own. Okay. It's a deal. 8 the next day. We got up early and went to the sky burial platform. They left me in the car and took my hiking poles. Ryan even secretly took my expensive hiking shoes and hiking poles and gave them to Jocelyn. Anyway, you won't need them. Let Jocelyn wear your shoes. I shrugged indifferently. Let her wear them. I'm just afraid that you have a life to wear them, but not the life to come back. Just like in my previous life. They avoided the steps and secretly took the mountain path to climb up the platform. Afraid that I wouldn't know how much fun they were having. Jocelyn specifically added me to their small group of 4. On the platform, vultures were hovering. Jocelyn quickly took off her windbreaker and danced gracefully in a pure and seductive white lace suspender dress. Ryan quickly pressed the shutter. Sunny and Leo also used their mobile phones to capture Jocelyn's charming moments one by one. After that, Jocelyn even sent the photos to the group and specifically mentioned me. It's really so sacred and special. A pure white girl and black vultures. How about it? Isn't it beautiful? Ryan really dotes on me and is so amazing. When I said I wanted to take photos, he really helped me take them. Looking at these words full of insincerity, I thought these people were simply crazy. The sky burial is sacred. But they are disturbing it like this. They are really courting death. 9 After Jocelyn finished taking the solo photos as a Tibetan princess, she pulled Ryan to take a photo together. Ryan didn't shy away at all. He held Jocelyn in his arms, and, hand in hand, they posed in the posture of shooting an arrow. The two of them were so close that their ears and temples were touching. And the atmosphere was extremely ambiguous. Leo, the admirer, didn't even think there was anything wrong. He was dancing with excitement while taking photos and even guided them to change their poses. Draw the bow. Draw the bow. Yes. Shoot an arrow into the sky. Yes. Yes, heading for Selwind session. Yes. Just like that. It would be best to shoot down a vulture. The sense of atmosphere and destiny is amazing. This extremely ambiguous photo was also sent to the group by Jocelyn. They all say that Ryan and I are a perfect match. What do you think? I ignored it. After a while, she mentioned me again. Ryan himself also said that I'm small and cute, and I make him feel a strong urge to protect me. I'm so happy. Giggling, I rolled my eyes. Looking closely at that photo, Ryan's hand wasn't steady when drawing the bow. The arrow already had a faint tendency to fly out, in the direction that the arrowhead was pointing at. There were locals standing all over. I sat in the car, waiting leisurely. Sure enough, just a few seconds later, my phone rang. On the other end of the phone, Ryan deliberately lowered his voice. We're in some trouble here. The police are coming slowly. Hurry up and come up the mountain to help. It seemed that they had angered the locals and found a place to hide. I pinched my throat and pretended to be panicked. What's wrong? What's wrong? Ryan. You must be okay. Ryan's tone was extremely impatient. Stop talking nonsense. Hurry up and come up here to help us distract them. I choked back my sobs and agreed. Okay. You must wait for me. After that, there was a snap. Expressionless. I hung up the phone. Ask me to go up the mountain to help? I think they're calling me to my death as a scapegoat. I will never go up that mountain. 10 minutes later, Ryan called again. This time, he was running, panting heavily and out of breath. When the call connected, his voice was filled with anger. Didn't I tell you to come quickly? Now we're being chased and running. Hurry up and come up the mountain to stop them for us. Jocelyn has sprained her ankle. If anything happens to her, I will never forgive you. His tail sound dragged on long and strangely. And on the other end of the phone, there were also strange sounds of breaking through the air and Ryan's terrified screams. bang accompanied by the sound of a heavy object hitting the ground. The phone call was also hung up. I slightly raised the corners of my lips. They finally fell off the clef just like in my previous life. It was slower than I expected. I want to see if Ryan can survive this time without me risking my life to save him. Few hours later. I pretended to be panicked and dialed the police emergency number. The rescue helicopter arrived faster than I expected. After asking about the situation, they all shook their heads and sighed, saying that it was probably more bad than good, but they still lead the team towards the foot of the mountain. Not long after, the rescue team leader called me. Their situation is very bad. Don't hang up this phone. Talk to them one by one and keep them conscious. I was happy to watch the drama and agreed without hesitation. So, I heard the rescue team discussing on the other end. The mountain path was narrow and the number of people was limited. They could only rescue one person at a time. Deciding who to rescue first was also a problem. They discussed and decided to rescue Ryan first. Because Ryan's legs were abnormally twisted and he had a head injury from the impact. If he wasn't treated immediately, there was a risk of being paralyzed all over his body. Just as they were tying Ryan onto the stretcher, Jocelyn let out a scream. Why rescue him first? Rescue me first. Rescue me first. I don't want to stay in this damned place. The rescue team all looked at Jocelyn. When she fell, Ryan had been a human cushion, blocking most of the impact. The injury she suffered was just a slight fracture. The rescue team ignored her. Jocelyn then completely forgot her image as a delicate woman. She kept cursing. Even Leo couldn't stand it and slapped her. Jocelyn? It was you who insisted on going to the sky burial platform and you who insisted on taking those photos of the princess shooting arrows. All of this is your fault. Ryan even got injured like this to be your scapegoat. How could you be so heartless? She was silent for a moment and then completely erupted, wailing loudly. What does it have to do with me? What does it have to do with me? Ryan is willing to be my admirer. I can order him around however I want. What business is it of yours? If it weren't for Ryan inviting me to Tibet, I wouldn't have encountered all this trouble. It's his own fault. Stop arguing. Ryan interrupted their argument in a hoarse voice. Even at this moment, the way he looked at Jocelyn was still full of affection. Jocelyn, you go first. I'll give my chance to you. Jocelyn crawled beside the stretcher, pushed Ryan aside, and lay on it herself. She anxiously urged the rescue members. What are you waiting for? Hurry up and go? So, the rescue team carried Jocelyn out of the valley first and placed her beside the helicopter. Just as they were about to rescue the others, Jocelyn grabbed the hand of the rescuer. Where are you going? Send me away first. Leave them alone. The rescue team leader took a deep breath. Madame, Wamekeo. Can you stop being unreasonable? Your companions are still waiting for our rescue. Jocelyn no longer cared about maintaining her image. She cried and made a scene, holding the team leader's hand tightly. What does it matter to me whether they live or die? Send me away first. Don't you know how scared I am? If you don't send me away now, I'll jump off the mountain again. The team leader's face turned ugly. But Jocelyn's hand was gripping his tightly and wouldn't let go. He could only arrange for the pilot to send Jocelyn away first and then let another team to carry the others out. It wasn't until I followed the rescue team and flew to the hospital that I finally felt a sense of reality. This nightmare-like trip to Tibet finally came to an end. 10 after the holiday ended, I returned to school as scheduled. I went to classes, finished classes, ate, and slept. I lived like a normal person. Until one time when I had a video call with my parents. They casually asked about Ryan. Why haven't we heard you mention your little boyfriend for a long time? My expression froze. Yes, Headley too. I haven't contacted Ryan for a long time since leaving Tibet. It's time to pay him a visit. I heard that rescue ultimately missed the best treatment opportunity. He was completely paralyzed from the chest down. I went to the hospital to visit Ryan. He leaned dejectedly against the hospital bed, his eyes lifeless as he stared fixedly out the window. There was a foul smell coming from his beddings. The once darling of the finance department couldn't even take care of his own bowel and bladder functions now. He was as miserable as an old dog. When he saw me, his eyes lit up, but then he gave a self-deprecating smile. Violet, are you here to break up with me? I clearly don't deserve you now. I was torn between you and Jocelyn at that time. But I shouldn't have been paralyzed. If it weren't for her pushing me off the stretcher so hard, my legs could still have been saved. I wish she were dead. Now I realize that you are the best and most suitable girl for me. But I know that I've already missed you. Can I hug you one last time? I pretended to be moved and walked up to him. The next second, a flash of cold light caught my eye. He actually took out a sharp knife from his sleeve and stabbed straight at my chest. Why didn't you stop me from climbing the sky burial platform? Why didn't you save me? I should be the darling, the general manager of the Zip Corporation, not a useless person. His expression was crazed, and he was panting heavily. He had actually been reborn too. Bang! With a sound, I kicked the dagger out of his hand. Before I could even hit him, he fell to the ground due to inertia and couldn't get up at all. Yes. Just as he said himself. No. He was just a harmless, useless person. I smiled. I walked to the door and waved my hand. Why? It's to make you unable to live and unable to die. It's to make you atone for my miserable death in the previous life. He was stunned, slumped on the ground, and murmured to himself. So, you've been reborn too. No wonder. No wonder. Behind me, there came a burst of insane laughter, followed by heart-rending sobs. After that, the doctors and nurses rushed over together. Hurry up. Hurry up. The patient has fainted and is incontinent. I just paused slightly in my steps and didn't look back. 11 later, I returned to school and went to classes as usual. Besides Ryan, Jocelyn, Leo, and Sunny gradually came back one after another. However, although Jocelyn had a minor fracture, she developed psychological problems. Leo had his right leg amputated, and Sunny's right hand became necrotic. Later, 2 or 3 months passed. I heard that Jocelyn was crazy and particularly afraid of light. Whenever she saw a water source, she would always scream in fear. She also had frequent fevers. In the end, she was diagnosed with rabies and passed away not long after. I suddenly remembered the small wounds that the little stray dog in Tibet had bitten on her body. Later, I heard that Leo and Sunny also had unexplained high fevers. Their bodies were swollen for no apparent reason, and they always had trouble catching their breath. But the cause of the disease couldn't be found. The two of them suspected that they had offended the gods on the sky burial platform. They prayed to the gods and Buddha every day, but their bodies still wasted away day by day. Later, their livers swelled horribly. When they went to the hospital for an examination, they finally found out the cause of the disease. It was hydatid disease. The cause was the raw water they drank and the raw beef they ate. The two of them had the diseased parts removed. At first, they still insisted on going to school. But there was no elevator in the student dormitory. They would be extremely out of breath after climbing just a few steps. And Leo's wheelchair couldn't move freely in and out of the classroom, library, and dormitory. The two of them could only rent a house off campus, and their finances were extremely tight. Moreover, since they got sick, they became extremely sensitive. They always suspected that others were laughing at them and frequently got into conflicts with their classmates. Before long, they couldn't stay in school anymore and took a voluntary leave of absence. 12 As for me, I honed my professional abilities while at school. After graduation, I channeled all the resources that I had once given to Ryan into myself. I grew even faster than I had imagined. Everything in my previous life was like a nightmare, fading away from me. In this life, everything about me is brand new.